Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Webb. I am Chief Executive Officer of Future Today Strategy Group. I'm also a professor of strategic foresight at the New York University Stern School of Business, and I would like to thank you all for being here today. We are gathered here today to celebrate and to remember the life of Treino Report.
In the margins of time, late nights, headlights, nowhere to go. Every answer was we just gotta know. We made plans we were sure would come true. Drew a map, every road led to you. I can still hear the sound of your laugh. It was a promise that we thought would last. Every moment felt bigger back then, with the future coming round the bend. And time kept whispering, life will change, but memories won't fade. Here's to the nights we thought wouldn't end. All of those what ifs and almost we said, if this is goodbye, I'm alright with the truth. We're better for what we've been through. I wouldn't trade a second we had. Every page, every good, every bad. Now I'm closing the door, but I'm leaving the light for the moments that got us here tonight. 18 years, give or take a dream. Funny how fast forever can leave. We chased meaning in headlines and signs, tried to read every star in the sky. We held on through the best and the worst. Every ending rewrote the first. And I see now what I couldn't before. Change just means there's something more. I don't wonder who's wrong or right, just thankful to have felt so alive. Every chapter has its last line, and this one's mine. Here's to the nights we thought wouldn't end. All of those what ifs and almost we said, if this is goodbye, I'm alright with the truth. We're better for what we've been through. I wouldn't trade a second we had. Every page, every good, every bad. Now I'm turning the chapter, yeah, I'm ready to say it was beautiful. And better days are on their way.
So friends, today we are here to say goodbye to Treino Report, who would have been 19 years old. And I know how strange that sounds, but grief doesn't follow the rules of what's supposed to happen. Treino Report was generous in the most literal way. It was published openly and freely. It asked for nothing, and yet it gave us a common language. Across countries and industries, across business and filmmaking and art, it made conversations smarter, decisions better informed, and people more creative. Treino Report had a rare kind of authority. During a time that was just saturated with hot takes and loud certainty, Treino Report didn't need to shout. Treino Report could take a flood of information, mountains of data, and turn all of that into a clear story you could act on. Its credibility wasn't branding, it was rigor. Hundreds of slides, 1,000 slides at the end, grounded in real data. And that's why Treino Report reached millions of readers every year. And we weren't alone. After we started publishing our Treino Report, many, many more followed. Now, across the industry, across every industry, there are hundreds of Treino Reports published every year. Every consultancy, every agency, every brand, every think tank, We were all just trying to make sense of the future, one trend at a time. So this is actually not just a eulogy for our trend report, it's for all trend reports. Look, friends, the world is changing fast. A static PDF of trends provides information, but it becomes stale immediately because things are changing so fast in tech, in the economy, in policy, and in my view, in a lot of organizations, these trend reports have become a crutch rather than a catalyst for strategy and for capital allocation. So it made no sense to ignore all of that change and to keep doing the exact same thing year after year because you can't reverse time. You cannot make the world the way that it used to be. So we recognized our innovation for what it had become, a once great idea worth destroying. Sometimes you gotta burn down what you built and make way for what the future demands. And that is actually why we are here today. So yes, technically, this started off as a funeral. But saying goodbye on your own terms, that's also a cause for celebration. So we're gonna make a transition right now, everybody, because in saying goodbye, it is an opportunity to celebrate our deliberate act of creative destruction. So I want you to get up. I want you to stand up right now, get out of your seats, get your cameras ready. And South by Southwest, I want you to open up those back doors. settle back in and get started. I want to thank my friend Dr. Cliff Crooms for being here this morning with the Texas Longhorn Band. Yeah. Dr. Crooms is amazing. He's the director of the marching band. He's also the director of the symphony band. And I also want to make sure, thank you, Dr. Crooms, and the incredible students for being here this morning. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, so what are we doing here? As you all now know, there is no Tech Trends report this year. Now, we are still modeling and tracking trends, and they are still a core component to all of our foresight and our strategy work. We're just not producing a trend report anymore. And there's a reason for that that I want to explain. It has something to do with creative destruction. There was an economist in the 1940s named Joseph Schumpeter, and his basic idea was this. Capitalism is like a perpetual storm. It constantly destroys old industries and creates new ones. To survive the storm, you have to recognize that entirely new technologies can make you irrelevant overnight. So horse-drawn carriages became railroads, became cars, became Uber, and now, if you look anywhere in Austin, Waymos, which is transportation of humans by robots. Each new wave wipes out the last one. So creative destruction means the creation of new products, new technologies, new business models, new markets, new organizations, and the destruction of incumbent firms, old jobs, outdated ways of producing, old ways of selling. So this may sound a little bit familiar to you, to something that Harvard Business School professor Clay Christensen called disruptive innovation, which describes how smaller companies can dislodge established leaders. So digital cameras disrupting Kodak, creative disruption, or disruptive innovation. So Christensen zoomed in, how a scrappy startup can take you down. Schumpeter zoomed out. Here's how external forces cause creative destruction that happens to companies. Now, in both cases, this perpetual storm, it doesn't care about you, which means that you have to care about the storm before it arrives. And this is all great as long as you can see that the storm is coming. And then if you can, the destruction and the creation becomes a choice because you have agency. So what I'm here to announce today is that my colleagues and I at Future Today Strategy Group, we built a storm tracker. This explains what it does. So we have invented a brand new methodology, and we built a technology, a lot of technology, powering a storm tracker. So if you've heard me speak about trends before, or if you've read any of our reports over the past 5 years, you've heard me say over and over again that trends on their own aren't useful, that you have to look at the intersections between the trends in order to make sense of what's coming. That was me informally talking about convergences. So this year, let me formally introduce you to convergences and their rules. So you can think of it this way. Trends are kind of like weather data. So temperature, humidity, wind speed, this is all useful and important, but a meteorologist isn't just looking at temperature and wind speed in isolation and calling that a forecast. And let's be real, none of us are looking at a number on a barometer as a clue that we should evacuate town, right? So a convergence is a storm system. It's what happens when all of those different conditions interact and produce something that none of them could produce on their own. Now, I know what you're thinking. We know what a trend is. We know how to track trends. We know what to do with them. A trend shows up, we track it, we build a roadmap, and we're done. Convergences are different. They are something net new that you will have to learn how to start using. You don't react to them, you position yourself ahead of them. So a trend tells you what's changing, a convergence tells you what's going to become inevitable before it looks inevitable, which means that the window to act is earlier, but the cost of missing it is much, much higher. So this is something brand new that you'll have to incorporate into your thinking and your planning, but we're going to tell you what to do with it. So what do you do with a convergence? You use it for strategy. You use it to figure out what to accelerate, what to pause, or what to completely reframe as you're starting to build things. And that is exactly what we are going to do here together today. A convergence is when multiple trends, forces, uncertainties, and catalysts intersect and interact and together create a combined impact that is greater than and often different in kind than the sum of their individual parts. Convergences are defined by 4 rules. They're system level, across multiple industries and systems that all intersect at once. And that makes them really hard to see unless you know what you're looking for. 2, they create new realities suddenly. So what seemed inconceivable is suddenly inevitable, and it happens almost overnight. They redistribute power and value. So convergences don't just shake up an industry, they rewrite who wins, where the leverage is, where the value is, again, across industries all at once. And 4, importantly, they are hard to reverse. Because when multiple systems start reinforcing each other, that new reality locks in very fast. So early detection is mission critical or you're toast. So the red thread here is convergences are very easy to miss if you don't know what you're looking for, if you don't know how to identify them. So if you are just laser focused on weather data, or if you are just laser focused on the tech trends, or the latest economic indicators, or whatever in the hell is going on between OpenAI and the Pentagon. Can we just do a little side quest for a second? What the hell is even happening? I don't know, I'm confused. So you're not making weapons, OpenAI, but now you are making weapons, literally as of this morning while I was drying my hair. You're not doing domestic surveillance, we wouldn't do that. No, wait, sorry, JK, we are doing domestic surveillance. Pick a lane, Sam, and then go forward. So convergences are, yes. If you like that, you're gonna love what's coming up. I have a few bones to pick today. So convergences are easy to miss. They are easy to miss if you're not tracking the storm. So if you were in this session last year, you've actually already heard me name and talk about a new convergence that we discovered using this new methodology of ours, and it's living intelligence. So living intelligence is the convergence of AI, sensors, and biotechnology into systems that can sense and interpret and respond to the living world in real time. So it's bi-directional data, and this has wide sweeping implications for every industry. Now last year at South by, I talked about this computer, which had literally launched a week before I was on stage. And this thing is powered by living brain cells. So it's a great example of living intelligence. Would you like to know what it's been up to over the past 12 months? You know you do. It learned how to play Doom, which means a computer made out of human brain cells has learned how to shoot people, which is thrilling. You're not clapping for that one. Don't do that. Living intelligence is just one of the convergences that we found using this new methodology. So we've analyzed all of this, and we have produced something for you, which is our very first annual Convergence Outlook, which we are launching right here for the very first time. It's fucking great. It's really good. I can't wait for you to see it. We've announced a whole bunch of convergences that make up actually a pretty challenging storm. So here's a peek at what's inside. We start with forces. So this is the state of play. So it's actually happening right now in tech, the economy, geopolitics, demographics, and climate. We have very deep analysis showing how the world is likely to operate over the next 12 to 24 months. So this global operating environment, those are the guardrails. And then within those guardrails are the convergences. So we have a bunch, we've included 10 that our methodology has found so far. And these are the convergences that we think are gonna have an outsized impact on business, government, and everyday life in 2026. Each section covers one convergence, and the whole outlook was really built to accelerate decision-making by leaders in every organization. So you will find the startups and the companies that are driving some of this that will have an aggressive impact, case studies, strategic scenarios, critical inflection points to look for, and a list of, within your organizations, these are the decisions that you should be accelerating, this is what you should pause, here's what you should think about completely reframing. What's in this report is what we know leaders are missing right now. We know because we are in the room with them, watching it happen. And this is not just in the US, this is global. You'll also find a heat map that shows convergence timing by industry. So the darker the color, the more imminent the required action. And I can literally see two people's faces right now who have just, you don't look good. That's because, I mean, you look great. But the problem is, for those of you working in telecommunications, for insurance, for financial services, CPG, healthcare, aerospace, this is going to be a very uncomfortable year for you if you don't get serious about convergences and, importantly, strategy. We've also invented new tools and frameworks for you because foresight without strategy is insight without leverage. And strategy without action is intent without impact. So you're about to find out that there is a very big storm headed your way, and I just want you to be prepared. So today, I'm going to go through 3 convergences from our 2026 outlook. I'm going to ask you some very, very difficult questions, and I'm going to show you 2 of the possible paths that this storm could take. Now, what I'm about to show you is going to be alarming. It is going to make some of you deeply anxious, but unlike some people out there, I'm man enough to show you my face while I scare you. I'm also not just going to leave you sitting there without a plan. So by the time that we get to the end, you're going to have new perspectives. You're going to have a new process to use, and you're going to have a new product to take home with you. Most importantly, you're going to leave here with new power, because after I scare the hell out of you, you are going to feel energized. You're going to feel primed, and you're going to be able to navigate through this storm with confidence, all right? So now we can get started. Let's talk about our first convergence, which is human augmentation. 10,000 years ago, Paleo-Indians in Peru chewed coca leaves because it got them real high. In 950 BCE, ancient Egyptians used a wooden and leather prosthetic toe for somebody who had lost their real one. In the late 13th century, Italians were using corrective lenses to help them see. In the 1790s, Edward Jenner, he invented a new medicine. It was called a vaccine, and it prevented smallpox. And I know it's hard to think of it this way now, but these vaccines, they were literal miracles, saved a lot of lives, in case that slipped your mind. And then during World War II, both the Axis and the Allied forces used amphetamines because it helped performance during fighting. Put simply, we humans have never been satisfied with our factory settings. Human augmentation is the use of technology and biology to enhance, extend, or optimize human physical and cognitive capabilities beyond their natural limits. So the landscape of human augmentation today has 4 broad categories that I'm going to walk you through: body and movement, brain and mind, internal systems, and senses. I'm going to show you what's happening in each. We'll start with body and movement. So I'm going to show you 3 brand new devices that were all created to help you move better. These are the Mogo powered pants. Mogo stands for mountain goat, and they were created by Arc'teryx, which is a great brand that makes gear for the outdoors. They partnered with Skip, which is a spin-out from Google X Labs. So basically, these pants are like an e-bike for hiking. They're lightweight motors in them, and they at your knee, and basically it boosts leg strength on uphill climbs, and it absorbs the shock of the descent so that your knees don't hurt. And this is actually pretty awesome because it means that you can keep up with your friends on a challenging hike. Okay, the second is this hypershell exoskeleton. You can think of it as like a leisure exoskeleton. And the purpose here is not to go faster, it's to go longer without getting sore. So people, if any of you were at CES this year, I was, Vegas is huge. So South by is big, but like Vegas, the city of, is enormous. There's a lot of walking. So there were people wearing these things. I just had a thought, I wasn't gonna talk about this, but I'm wondering now if they were also wearing diapers, you know what I mean? But the point, they were wearing these, and it was because then they didn't have to stop. They don't have to sit down, they can keep walking. Maybe they augmented it further, I don't know, we can figure out later. The third thing was this shoe. So you have probably seen this is Project Amplify. So it's a normal looking shoe and it connects to your leg and it's powered, so it basically helps you go farther longer. So it can add an extra mile to your run. So the key here is that none of these devices are necessarily being made for people with mobility challenges. All of this is being made to help the able-bodied move faster, longer, and harder. As in, your body doesn't want to do that extra mile? Technology will help you, or depending on your point of view, force you to continue going. By the way, those are on-body devices. There are also off-body devices like this bed. So this is an AI-powered bed made by 8 Sleep, and it externally records all of your data while you're asleep. And it makes temperature adjustments. So it makes it so that you can sleep longer, harder, basically with fewer interruptions. Okay, so let's move on to the brain and mind. In 1977, a team at UCLA built what is regarded as the first working brain-computer interface, BCI. So a man was able to steer a cursor around a maze on a computer screen in real time by thinking. In 2016, here at South by Southwest, so 10 years ago, I showed you this. This was some cutting edge research from Dr. Miguel Nicolay. He's at Duke, and he's a pioneer in BCIs. He implanted 10 years ago monkeys with hundreds of tiny flexible electrodes in their brains, and that made it so that they could steer wheelchairs around just by using their thoughts. Well, flash forward to today, and right now in China, there is a patient who can control a wheelchair as well as a robotic dog and a whole bunch of other digital devices with his mind. So that's movement. Which means that you currently live in a reality where some of your fellow human beings have actual superpowers: telepathy and telekinesis. Let's move on to internal systems. In 2018, a Chinese scientist named He Jiankui edited human embryos using CRISPR. Now, he said that the point of this was to help prevent the spread of HIV. So this is to protect babies so that as adults, they wouldn't get it. And he went to prison for it. But here's the part of the story that didn't get said out loud. The gene that got edited, CCR5, that's also associated with enhanced cognitive performance, as in editing a gene before the babies are born that could turn them into adults with super cognitive abilities. Now, people get uncomfortable when we talk about editing the genes of embryos, but we don't freak out as much when it's adults. Researchers at UCLA are working on epigenetic reprogramming, which is a form of human editing. So essentially resetting the biological instructions that your cells follow. They're using Yamanaka factors to literally turn back the biological clock to make cells behave younger. So again, this isn't to treat disease, it's to rewind healthy people before anything breaks. And finally, senses. So by now, connected glasses are pretty common. I can see a few of you wearing them. What's coming next is a pretty big upgrade. So right now, Meta's glasses, they can technically already identify people, even if you yourself don't have access to that feature. What you can do with them is you can translate other languages in real time. You can even get a description of what you're looking at. So it's very useful stuff. You're not actually seeing the world as it's presented to you. What you're seeing is a version of the world with a layer of intelligence on top. So in addition to Meta, there are others out there. Startups like Brilliant Labs and Avon Realities, or Even Realities, they are glasses with full-blown AR displays. So your field of vision becomes a live feed of real-time information. So you can imagine it's almost like looking through the entire world through a private, personal Bloomberg terminal, but at the entire world at once. And the goal here, it isn't to replace your senses, it's to upgrade them. All right, for those keeping track, I just rattled off a dozen different enhancements. What if I made just 3 enhancements to myself using off-the-shelf technology that I could literally go out and buy right now? Let's look at the distance that that puts between me and you in just about every single situation. How about that leisure exoskeleton that I mentioned, with or without the diapers? Now, I'm pretty fit because I'm an endurance athlete. So I have an advantage to start with. I can go and go and go, no problem. However, with a leisure exoskeleton on, I'll be able to walk around much longer than you without ever needing to sit down. Which means that at South by Southwest, if I'm walking around more, guess what? I'm gonna meet more people, I'm gonna get more business cards, I'm gonna get more information, and by my calculations, that means I'm gonna be about 40% more active than you. AI bed, I actually have one of these at home. So I've been sleeping on one of these for several years now. So I happen to know all of my data. Sleeping on this, I know that I get about 30% more restful sleep than you can, because it's optimizing all of my sleep stages, my comfort and my temperature, which means that I'm waking up with a fully recharged brain and body every time I wake up in the morning. And now let's say that the normal glasses that I'm wearing are actually a pair of smart glasses with an AR overlay. If I've got that on, I always know what I'm looking at. I will always be able to decode any language. So again, by my calculations, I'm spending maybe 20% less time of my day finding my phone, looking at my phone, trying to find things at South by Southwest than you are. So if we do some quick math here, if I'm 40% more active, I'm getting 30% more sleep, and I'm 20% more efficient, that makes me roughly 2.2 times more effective than the average person. That literally makes me twice the person that you are at this conference. I can out-conference you at South by Southwest. Now think about this from your boss's point of view. Who do you think is going to get the next opportunity? The next raise? The next promotion? So here's the net new reality that this convergence, human augmentation, results in. Your body is now a platform. Your mind has a reader, interpreter, and controller. And pretty soon, opting out will mean falling behind. I don't know about you people, but I have some questions. What if your company requires augmentation as a condition of hiring you for a high-stakes physical role, like surgery, construction, flying an aircraft? What if you're somebody who can't afford a fancy AI bed or computer glasses? Are you going to get left behind? Spoiler alert, you are. Every class divide in history has been reversible. Okay, well, what happens when it's written into your DNA? Like, all the wealthy people edit themselves, will they start rewinding their bodies so that they always stay young? What if old people's bodies stay young, but their ideas and ways of thinking are all shriveled up and wrinkly, literally from another generation? I am asking this question mainly to the Americans, because what this means is we may have an elderly president that can both walk up and down stairs. This is our first storm. Our first storm. For the first time in history, some humans will be objectively better than others, and that may not be you. Let's move on to the next storm, the next convergence. Unlimited labor. 3,500 years ago, ancient Sumerians invented the wheel, not for chariots, but for pottery, to automate making clay pots. In 1439, Gutenberg invented the printing press. It could produce 3,600 pages a day so that human scribes didn't have to write all those words by hand. In 1913, Henry Ford created the assembly line. It was a factory that could produce a Model T car in just 93 minutes. So the car didn't require a craftsperson. In 1979, Dan Bricklin and Bob Frankston invented VisiCalc, the very first electronic spreadsheet, so that one accountant could do the work of 20. And in 2007, Steve Jobs introduced the iPhone, so that you no longer had to learn how to read a map, or flip through a phone book, or call a travel agent. Put simply, we've been automating human effort since the wheel. Unlimited labor is the use of automated systems to produce work at scale, on demand and without human participation, effectively removing natural limits like time, attention, and fatigue. The landscape of unlimited labor today has three broad categories: agentic systems, robotics, and automated factories. Let's start with agentic systems. So agents have crossed a threshold. They are no longer a feature that you open, they are just becoming the default interface for just getting stuff done. That happens when an agent gets embedded at the platform level with three conditions present. It's always on, it can use tools across apps, and it has some form of trust rails, so identity, permission, payments, stuff like that built in. Once those conditions are met, you don't use the agent, you're kind of just living inside of it. So imagine a developer team where one member can write and rewrite code millions of times a day, and it never gets tired, and it instantly tests every single idea. That's Alpha Evolve from DeepMind. It's basically an AI lab assistant for code. You tell it you want an algorithm, what you want it to do, how you're going to score its success, and then it relentlessly tries, tests, and improves code until it finds something better than the human coders were able to do on their own. For 30 years, Windows trained us, computer users, to do knowledge work by managing files, so like documents, folders, email threads. Now, Copilot is being built into Windows and Office, and all of those tasks that you had to learn how to do will be tasks that you'll delegate to a machine. So we have AI for coding, and that is left brain work. There's also agentic AI for creators and for content, so right brain work. You already know that AI is generating all kinds of videos and content, stuff that's indistinguishable than what we would have taken on our own in the real world. Here's what you missed. China is automating tasks performed by creators now. So this guy, Luo Yonghao, is massively popular. He's a hugely popular creator, and he's one of China's most popular and earliest live streamers. So he and his co-host are both using agentic AI now to live stream, sell things, and like have customer support 24/7 on local platforms, as in live stream AI versions of themselves. Last year, they interacted with human viewers in real time for well over 6 hours on Baidu's e-commerce platform. They moved in 6 hours $7.6 million in sales. Yeah. Just for comparison, the human version of Luo he tapped out at 4 hours and he didn't come anywhere close to selling that much. So what does this tell us? That everything that made creators important, the ability to authentically connect, to have original ideas, to authentically interact, it can all be automated. His co-host are both in work. There's also relentlessly tries, tests, and improves code until it finds something better than the human coders were able to do on their own. For 30 years, Windows trained us, computer users, to do knowledge work by managing files, so like documents, folders, email threads. Now, Copilot is being built into Windows and Office, and all of those tasks that you had to learn how to do will be tasks that you'll delegate to a machine. So we have AI for coding, and that is left brain work. There's also agentic AI for creators and for content, so right brain work. You already know that AI is generating all kinds of videos and content, stuff that's indistinguishable than what we would have taken on our own in the real world. Here's what you missed. China is automating tasks performed by creators now. So this guy, Luo Yonghao, is massively popular. He's a hugely popular creator, and he's one of China's most popular and earliest live streamers. So he and his co-host are both using agentic AI now to live stream, sell things, and like have customer support 24/7 on local platforms, as in live stream AI versions of themselves. Last year, they interacted with human viewers in real time for well over 6 hours on Baidu's e-commerce platform. They moved in 6 hours $7.6 million in sales. Yeah. Just for comparison, the human version of Luo he tapped out at 4 hours and he didn't come anywhere close to selling that much. So what does this tell us? That everything that made creators important, the ability to authentically connect, to have original ideas, to authentically interact, it can all be automated on the cheap. There's no studio time, there's no fatigue, there's fewer staff. And a single avatar can now cover multiple sites at once in multiple languages. So here's something that's worth thinking about. The next internet is not being made for you, it's being made for agents. We humans are being designed out by a machine that has equally powerful brain hemispheres, both left and right. Pretty soon, we won't be the interface between decisions and execution anymore. Now, if agents can produce code and agents can produce content, what happens when we connect the agents to the robots? Well, let's start with streets and skies. Waymo robotaxis, they're everywhere in Austin right now. These are fully driverless cars. They're operating all over the US. This is my husband, Brian, in the front seat. We were in San Francisco, bopping around on a Waymo. Robot-assisted cars are starting to drive themselves everywhere in the world. So here in Austin, in San Francisco, in China. Speaking of China, check out this delightful Chinese robo-woman police lady. She is covered in cameras and sensors. Her entire womanly robot body is feeding real-time data back to a central surveillance system. So this is not terrifying in any way, shape, or form. I'm not worried about this. Let's look at the skies. This is an automated, autonomous robot in a box. It's part robot, part drone, from a company called Percepto. Now, these things live outside of oil, gas, and power sites, so they are performing the fairly dangerous work that human inspectors used to do. They launch themselves up into the sky to inspect equipment and even detect methane leaks and things like that, and then they return to recharge. They operate without downtime. There's no pilot, no truck, no people. Let's move on to factory robots. Next month, so just in a few weeks, BMW is going to start using humanoid robots in one of its German factories. The robot will move, handle, and assemble components to make batteries. DHL is already using these things. They've got a fleet of 1,000 Boston Dynamics stretch robots to automate unloading trucks and do warehouse work. This thing can move 700 boxes an hour, which is a lot more than any human would have been able to do. All right, so we've got robots for streets, we've got robots for skies, we've got robots for factories. How about robots for Japanese temples? Yes, I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. There is a shortage of monks in Japan to perform rituals, so now there is this robot, whose name is Buddharoid, who is there to help. Buddharoid has been trained on centuries of Japanese scriptures and can serve as a spiritual guide. By the way, we are automating nature's labor now too, specifically bees. So we have a global bee population decline, so some Harvard researchers created robo-bees. They mimic the behavior of real bees to help with pollination, which is actually great, because that is a place where we really need a lot of help. But maybe this is not so great if you are a horse, because this is a robot horse, and you will be able to take a ride on it sometime between now and 2030. And for those of you out there who are horses, and if you are worried about your jobs, you should definitely be worried. The future does not look good for you. So we've got agents running code and content, and we have robots moving through the skies and the streets and the warehouses, and we put all of